Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Terra Prime Live Saber Academy. Um, Here we are, the end of May. Things are still crazy, but we are still here, and we are still coming to you here. Um, we'll do this here at the top of the hour. Um, Next week, or yeah, well, next week begins June, and in June, if you're following us on Facebook, is going to be our summer Saber Cyber School, where we're going to be doing Facebook Live classes, just 30-minute little Facebook Live feeds onto the Facebook page and to our various Facebook entities um, with our knights and a special guest, General Sun himself, who sits on our council, of course, and will be also amongst the people instructing. So we're giving you guys a little bit of an insight into what kind of being with us is all about, and you can see the kind of wide varieties of techniques and styles that people are coming from. People from Japanese styles and Filipino styles, as well as the Chinese and European stuff that seems to dominate a lot of the kind of stuff. Um, uh, also, we will be switching these classes to Zoom classes, so there'll be participants in it, um, or participants available to be in it. Um, we'll be opening those to our apprentices, of course, but for people who want to join in, we'll probably throw up a couple of tickets um, here and there for people who want to join in, just for a little donation to help keep all of this stuff going while we're stuck down here. It won't be much just to cover all of the Zoom costs, but um, any hoot, that is where we're kind of going with that. I'm also planning on doing a couple of workshops, which will be also in that kind of Zoom format. Um, those longer formats, so those probably won't be streamed, at least not in the entirety, probably pieces of it or something like that, and then excerpts there. Um, if you ever do a workshop with us or anybody like us, hopefully this is the norm, but you should get a copy of that or access to a recording of that workshop. Anywho, so there we go. That's what we got coming up in June. This is all culminating to our 7 Form Symposium in July 4th, Independence Day here in the US of A. But hopefully we'll get things really hopping by then. We're not taking this laying down. So anyway, today what we'll talk about, little bit kind of tangential to what's going to be happening in June, because you're going to see that we do have a very, even you usually just see me, but here this is going to give us an opportunity to show off our other teaching staff that usually a lot of people don't get to meet. And you'll see the wide, again, the diverse styles that people come from. We've got spot on Japanese stuff. We've got a spot on Filipino stuff coming up. All of that's on the Facebook page, channel. But today we'll talk about, if you are, how you're going to approach this stuff. We've kind of gone through an overview of our entire system here over this month or two. And what do we do with it, right? Now, most of our stuff is geared towards beginners, right? So if you're starting at the beginning, the Shicho stuff and all of that, and the way that we've presented it up to now um, has been basically for beginners. How are you going to start out? I'll cover that here real quick, um, just to do that. But I want to focus on more people who are coming to us with some sort of experience, um, with their basics, with you know advanced skills and that kind of thing, and how to kind of approach our system that way, and get the most out of it. I'm not going to be making many assumptions. I'm just giving generalized advice, um, based on, of course, my involvement in this particular project. So, anyway, so if you're just starting out, you have zero experience whatsoever, or you're just starting out in martial arts altogether, this is something that's been added on in your martial arts school, or that you've seen through maybe somebody in your school who does TSL or something, some other of the leagues out there. Um, right? So you basically you're coming from zero, um, and that's where our progression is really what our progression is really geared towards, is to give a a progression that goes from knowing nothing to knowing enough to handle yourself. Um, Not mastery, just handle yourself. Um, as I said before, there's this gigantic gray area of ability when you're talking about fighting, right? If two people are of vastly different levels of experience, right, and one of them is in another category than this person here, right? This one's in another category. They're a teacher, they're a competitor, or something like that. So they're in a separate category. This person's a hobbyist. Somebody does it on the weekends, that kind of thing. Yes, this person is going to, or the person who has the experience is going to dominate the person without any experience. Right? But you give somebody a little bit of experience, right? And all of a sudden they enter this wide range of things where people of actually much different and higher skill levels in various areas. This area is very even as far as the outcomes of fights, in my experience. I've never done a statistical analysis of this, but my impression is that, especially with weapon work, that if they've vastly different skill levels, sure, it's an easy call. But when somebody has just a little bit of experience, they can go up with somebody with quite a bit more and still hold their own. And it's almost like the outcomes of those become a lot of chance, right? You get into a fight, and a lot of it comes up to random variability. Right? Is there something did you trip? Did you miss your target? Did the other person just get it in because they were there before you, or what? Lots of stuff like that. So let me fix the levels here a little bit. Hopefully that's a little better. Anyway, yeah. So as a beginner, you go through Shicho. After you finish Shicho, right, you should have enough experience and skill within about at the very least 6 months, right? But I've always said that if you're training in order to fight, like the system that you're training ostensibly says you will be able to fight with these particular techniques. If you don't gain some ability to do that within 6 months, I wonder about the actual focus of the system, if it's really combative in nature. um, because I've always felt that training should give you benefits. Obviously, you're not going to become a master in 6 months, right? But if you were to train every day and really, really hard and put your mind to it, 6 months would give you some skill, at least enough to put you into that large category where things come very rarely to chance, and then you can modulate a little bit of your involvement in that. That's going to depend on how much time you put into it, what your particular circumstances is, all of that. You know, especially if you're, excuse me, back in the basement. Especially if you're doing this online with no formal instruction, um, that's going to take some time. But it can be done. You can ask Michael, Darth Razor, one of our new knights, exactly how he did it. I believe he's got a class specifically on that topic, which I would consider him probably an expert on. So it's a bit, you can do that. You can take this from 0 to hero, no problem. That again all depends on you, what you do. If you're doing this and you're doing this on your own, by yourself, with no assistance, no other training, supplementing this kind of stuff, right? Start with Shicho, finish that, right? We're working on a system where people who are not active apprentices with us can still follow us and still do that system, and we'll still give feedback, and we'll, you know, kind of a student base and stuff like that. So we're working on it. We're trying to figure out the exact technology we're going to use for it. So hold on for that. We're going to, as we go through June, we'll prepare everybody for these kinds of eventualities. Anyway, follow Shicho, right? Work on that. Work on those things for at least 6 months, at the very least. If you're not actively with us, or you're just going to do it all totally on your own. If you have no supervision from us, from them, from anybody, spend at least 6 months on those basics, right? I would say at least a year. Try to get some feedback from somebody of experience. Don't, you know, just not just any Yahoo on the internet. But we'll leave that topic for another time. Anywho, if you follow this progression the way that it's laid out, it will take you where you need to go, and it can take you pretty much to the point where it becomes less becomes less of what we can teach during a well, anyway, it's the point is, when you get to Form 5 level, these are things that we can't quite make videos on because they deal more with being directly involved with things, and that's just an experiential thing. But anyway, we'll get there. Let's, however, switch over from the novice to the experienced, right? Let's say somebody has some experience. You're coming from, and we'll do this in stages. Let's say you are a practitioner. You're a long-time practitioner of kendo, fencing, HEMA, kung fu, taekwondo, some martial art, not necessarily weapon-based, right? But you have some martial art idea. Now, if you have 0 weapons in your system, like this, I would follow the beginner's protocol. That's what I would recommend. But let's say you do have. Let's say you're a kendo practitioner. Right? When you approach this stuff, especially if you're doing stuff by yourself, um, without feedback, and you're just kind of like integrating your own things into there, right? You'll go through the stuff and you'll find stuff in here which is familiar, and you'll find stuff which is foreign. My suggestion, um, as you're as you go through, any of the material, right? You just go through it and see, and basically that's just learning our lingo, right? Here's what we call this. 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 Here's how we're dividing these particular things. Here's how we're dividing the footwork. Here's how we're dividing, that kind of thing. That's the kind of stuff that will make sense to you, right? So as a practitioner, right, focus on the stuff that seems foreign, right, and try to integrate that foreignness into your training and into the way that you are, interpreting this particular weapon. You can then take that and start using that type of interpretation to your real weapons, to your other weapons, all of that kind of thing. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. And that's one of the great benefits to this thing, is the ability to do that. So, yes, as you're going through the stuff, as a practitioner, as a competitor, right? Let's say you're kendo, okay? Shicho is going to be like falling off a log for you, right? It's very simple, very straightforward, very much like kendo. Many of the strikes are the same way kenjutsu or any type of Japanese two-handed sword play. It's going to be very familiar. Form 2, on the other hand, may present some challenge. I know we've had kendo practitioners in the past who, as soon as they let go and turn to the side with their weapon, right, those body mechanics become so foreign, it's very difficult for them to get a good, clean, effortless orbit, or, to be able to control the tip the way that you need to with your moon guards and all of that. It's nothing to say about their skill or anything like that. It's just said that these particular skills are not used in their sport. Or in, if you go to classical kenjutsu, and again, you're dealing with lots of cutting, lots of slashing. There's not a whole lot of this very, very fine type of stuff. Conversely, if you are a fencer, you will probably find Shicho a little foreign, a little awkward, a little wonky. That would be normal. That's something that I would expect to see in people. The fact that the stance is going to be more square to the opponent, right? We're not going to be in such a tight line. We're not going to be necessarily hiding all the time behind our weapon, right? We are going to bring it back. We are going to bring it up over our head. We're going to try to entreat people to open themselves up like that. Whereas Form 2 will be, again, like falling off a log, right? Oh, here we are back at home, right? We've got our footwork, which is fencing. We've got our line. We've got our parries. We've got all of this kind of stuff. So that's going to be, something. Now, when you start to get into the mixtures, into Suresu and Ataru, you're going to find elements from both. You're going to say, oh, I understand this. This is kind of weird, right? And then you're going to be able, you're a lot of times you're going to have to connect them, right? And come to some sort of good term with it and find, and that's really the whole point of our 4-pillar system, is that we try to find that common language and that common thing where we can utilize this to its greatest ability. I'm using my one-handed saber here today, but I can put two hands on it. I call this a hand and a half, right? But I can go from using this, if I stand up here. Oh, geez. One moment. There we go. Okay. So, let's see what I got distracted there for a moment. Anyway, oh yes, here we go. So the beauty with these things is I can switch from a kind of one-handed, you know, saber or gin type of fencing here, right? Stuff that looks like that, and I can instantly turn to the other kind of two-handed way of doing things effortlessly with not having to change my weapon, right? I just put another hand on there and I'm good to go, right? The omnidirectional blade, of course, has something to do with that, right? I don't have to change my technique visibly because of the handle or anything like that. I'm using, you know, what I can from this position, and I'm using what I can from this one, right? And I can switch, right, back and forth with, you know, what, again, with ease. I don't have to switch the weapon. You want to cultivate that ability, right? So you want to try to be comfortable with two-handed technique, where I'm going to be more like this. One-handed technique, where I'm going to be more like this, right? Turning and spinning, right? Fighting in crossed step, right? With your non-dominant foot forward, or in defense stance, as we call, right? Setting up for passing steps, right? Taking passing steps from attack stance. All that kind of thing, right? You would be surprised which of these things are hard for certain people because of where they're coming from, right? Because we build up habits and we build up, you know, strategies and stuff like that. We have to remember that the lightsaber is its own thing. It's its own weapon, its own sport, and we want to be able to use it that way. And one of those things about it is it can be any weapon. It can be any blade. And, you know, all of that. So, as you're going through this stuff, in every stage we have in every form we have 4 stages. Okay, formula stage, where you're just getting the components of that particular style. Shicho, right? Your basic parries, footwork, zones, strikes, stances, right? These things are your formula. Accelerations, drilling those movements that are used a lot, right? That are high percentage or very important, right? Dulan, the ability to take those movements and perform them in quick succession in a novel arrangement, right? Not freeform. Freeform is not Dulan, right? Dulan is rehearsed. It has to be kind of set up. If you make your own, that's fine. If you do somebody else's, that's even better, because it kind of forces you to look through somebody else's eyes at the material. And then velocities, where you're working on interacting with people. Okay, now that's for each of the of the sets, right, or of the forms, right? So you got formulas, formula, acceleration, Dulon, velocities. Okay, just follow that procedure, and you'll be good. Make sure you know everything. Now, again, you're a competitor. You're going through this stuff, right, by yourself. All right. You want to interpret what you have, right? You want to be able to do. Maybe you want to use this in competition. You want to start fighting with us in here. You know, when we start up here again in the USA, when you want to go to France, you want to do these types of things or fight with ASL, right? Do this, do these types of things, practice this type of stuff. Um, with anything, you can take these things, but cultivate all of these skills, and try to find where your weaknesses are. Right? Use this as pressure as a sort of pressure testing, not as far as external pressure, but as internal pressure. Where are you weak? Like, this is really awkward for me. I better start working on this. Right? Don't worry about if you'll ever use it. Right? It's the effort of being able to overcome some sort of biomechanical challenge that's really going to benefit you more than the actual biomechanical move. Although we tend to keep all of our moves very practical. And even when things are just for show, they have other uses, whether it be fitness or what have you. Anywho, so those are the first two, right? You've got your novice, beginner, coming in. You've got your competitor, your longtime martial artist who's got some experience, right? And let's say you're a teacher, right? And you want to start a program. You want to start interpreting your traditional or sport or whatever martial art that you're doing into lightsaber. You can totally use this system, going through this system. If you wanted to become a teacher with us, contact us and figure that out. That again is going to be something that's coming up that we'll bring you up to date on in June. So don't start sending me messages right now. We'll be having announcements of it through the month of June, all culminating into our 7-Form Symposium, which should be a big event, and we'll try to get everything out then. Anywho, so now you've got somebody who's a teacher who wants to start teaching classes, who wants to start maybe showing people this. Maybe you're somebody who wants to become certified with us as a ASL FFE coach, or ASL coach here in America with us. We'll tell you how to kind of approach what we're doing here. Probably both. You want to try to take both of these avenues, right? The competitor and the novice, right? Because you're going to be teaching both. And approach this kind of stuff as, again, filling out your toolbox so that you know and you can, instruct somebody in a technique that maybe is not in your repertoire. We would obviously prefer, people go directly through us, but obviously our stuff is always out there for people to use. We publish this stuff for a reason. We want people to use it. We want people to do that. And then later on, if you want to make yourselves official, you can totally do that as well. And we would love to have you. But how do you approach it as an instructor? Because you've got your own body of material, right? As I said, our 4 pillars should encompass just about, you can probably shoehorn just about anything into that, right? Some things may be a little bit more difficult, but so far we haven't had any problem integrating our different backgrounds into it. This is because I've kind of focused on basing these on biomechanical principles. These principles are going to be shared between everybody because these are the way that the human body works. Um, so taking the whole Jeet Kune Do thing of a punch is a punch just a little bit further, even though that's not literally a Jeet Kune Do thing. It's quite a bit older than that. But anyway, yeah. So, and look at how you can bring somebody up. Look at how we are intending to lay skills before a beginner, right? We start with two hands. Why? Two hands, a bit more stable, right? Especially with these fairly more substantial. I mean, they're more substantial than say a fencing foil, um, or even a fencing saber. Um, so with somebody who's not used to swinging something around like that, two hands is good because it helps you kind of gain control. Right? Once you gain that control and you kind of develop your sword arm a little bit, take that other hand off, kind of move forward to that. So that's kind of the idea. So as you're kind of approaching this from that vein, try to look for those little moments. What are we doing with this? Is the intention to, build this or that or what have you? There's generally a reason for everything that is in there. I mean, I'm always of a scientific mind, so I never want to say something without qualifying it with that I know of. But I'm fairly certain that most of our stuff is like that. And then basically just see where are the familiar things. Are we doing anything that's identical to something that's done in your style? Well, hey, there you go. There, just take that over there. Again, I would say for teachers, the most important thing, and for coaches for ASL and that rule set, is just learning the lingo, because that's the lingo we're going to use. We use that lingo not just because it's Star Wars-y and all that kind of stuff, but because it doesn't carry the same baggage and biases that the real words do. If I say parry to somebody, there are some people who say it's just a block. Some people say it has to do with a deflection and all this stuff. And there's all this kind of argument over something that we can just all agree that is a defensive move of some import with the weapon. We don't really disagree, or it's just that. So we try to use our lightsaber-ish lingo to refer to this stuff, so we can all be on just even footing. Yep, I know that's what it means there, but this is what we mean here. And instead of saying the same word, we just replace them. So that would be that thing. Learn our lingo, learn the way that we've kind of organized everything as far as all of that go. I'll go over it again. Determination is the first form, right? You're just trying to instill that attitude of determination towards that beginner, right? When they get into the ring, get to somebody, move forward. Don't always back up. Don't always wait for them to attack. Take the initiative, right? Try to get in there, because that's the first thing that you have to overcome, your own kind of fear and nervousness, right? You're about to step into somebody's range where they can hit you, and they intend to hit you. So it can be nerve-wracking. Anyway, next, conflict, right? You start to study the dynamic of the conflict, right? One person to one person, right? What are the dynamics? Yes, we can duel two-handed, right? But what does that do? Where are we short? Where are we compromised? Right? Makashi, form 2, optimized for 1-to-1. Not specifically for. Optimized. So, so then, next, defense. Learning how to defend yourself. Right? Now, you shouldn't have to worry about defending yourself and always backing up at this point. You should have enough control over your basics that you can be determined and go forward. You should have enough knowledge of the conflict and of the dynamics of the two fighters that you can now defend yourself without having to rely on simply stepping out of range. That, of course, is always an option that is available to you, but it should never be your only option, because sometimes you do not have that. And then finally, attack. How to optimize attack. With the nice thing about the lightsaber is, in reality, you don't need a whole lot of skill to attack with this. In universe, this should do most of the cutting itself, right? So you have to bring it to the target. In other ways, you would have to do other things. So attacking can be left for the very end, because we don't need to worry about sufficient force. We don't need to worry about that. We have all what we need in the second formula to make our touches and to all of that, right? Create our openings. And then we defend, we wait for our opening, and then we go through there. And now we can say, how are we attacking, right? So attacking comes last. I don't go into, this, that, and the other. We have 3 strikes to start off with, right? Full-on sai, chopping cho, and then the tag shim, right? And stab xian, short range. Okay, and we can keep it at that. We don't have to worry about nothing else until you get up to Taru, and then you can say, well, how many ways can I do sai? How many ways can I do cho? How can I power cho out of a sai? How can I do this? And then you go on. Now, what you go into as far as from Form 5 and on becomes a little headier. And like I said, we can't do too many direct videos on that stuff, but we will be putting out some material in that way. But it will be definitely more kind of high-level, complicated. You have to look beyond the surface of what's going on. So that's the basics of that. How to approach each of these things. Again, if you're a martial artist or anything like that, you should always be working toward your weaknesses, right? Your strengths, you'll generally rely on them anyway. You don't have to think about it. You got to focus on your weaknesses so that you can get that stuff done. All right, let's go to the questions here. Okay, I lost my entire feed there for a second. Am I back? Can everybody? I don't know if I'm back yet. Okay, I think I'm back. I have no idea what happened. Um, but I think we're back. All right. Whatever that was. Um, that was very, very bizarre. Uh, okay. All righty. What do we got? Do we have any? Yes. Okay. Let's see. Questions. Yes. So, questions. Can you learn this stuff online? Yes, you can. Um, all of our videos are up, right? So you can see the basic exercises and everything like that. That's all available, up there. If you go to our channel here on YouTube, we have them all separated into playlists for people, so you can kind of go through it that way. We've got a lot on Shicho. We've got a lot of other stuff too. But just if you look through our videos, we've got lots of like little technique videos here and there. So that's where I would suggest to go here. Also, follow us here. I'll try to post. I mean, I believe I can. I'll try to throw some of these Facebook live broadcasts up onto YouTube if I can figure out how to do that after the fact, of course. But anyway, if you tune into any of those things, we'll be doing a lot of stuff as far as what you can learn at home and all that. And then again, in the future, when we have these classes, we'll have, if people want to come in and participate, we'll have stuff like that. So, start with the formula videos. Yes, start with the formula videos. Spinning the saber, it's going to be a miracle I can do that without bonking myself. Yes, well, that is the whole point of spinning, is what we call basic weapon handling. And this is probably a good exercise to get everybody involved in here, because a lot of people don't like a lot of. I doubt you would do this a whole lot in fencing or kendo or anything like that. So there's, getting good and with this type of thing, right? And then see if I can, there we go. Right? Practicing that allows you to kind of feel what your distance from your own body is, a proprioceptive act, right? It's also intuitive. Like, most people will start just kind of twirling it around. Now, unconsciously, you'll let go. When you're doing this, like that, for what we do it for, even in choreography, I do not recommend you let go. Keep those fingers solidly on there. You will have enough play keeping your fingers on there to accommodate any motion that you need, right? So I can bring it forward like this, and then if you see here, my fingers are still on it, right? And then you see, all I do, make a fist, and you get that. So it's the same thing here. Boom. See? So one of the ways that I get away from with the shims, right, putting it in the wrist or the elbow, is you do that, right? You squeeze at the end. Okay? That'll put less stress on one portion of this whole apparatus and will instead spread it throughout your whole forearm. Right? Right? You'll also get some rotator cuff in there. Okay? That, of course, will then allow you to go quickly. Okay? In ASL, yeah, we can't do rapid fire strikes, but we can feint. So we can come in like this and down like that. Right? Boom, boom, boom. Just like that. Okay? So if you don't tend to do this type of stuff, I would highly recommend it because people love to do this with lightsabers. If you are a teacher and you're trying to get people to come to your lightsaber class, you must teach this. People will not like you if you do not teach this. Right? Yes, do we teach it at Serasu level? Absolutely, we teach it at Serasu level. You can do it before then, right? But if you want to learn the meaning, you have to learn the things that come before it. And if you want to get to the point where you can stop it, as I'm going around here like this, I can stop it wherever I want. Right? That's the key. Right? Going is one thing. Stopping, right, is another. We always want to be able to stop. Okay. As my sparring partner, Tony, used to say, an underrated part of getting anywhere is the ability to stop. So, there you go. All right. Yes. So yes, you can get if you're doing this and your shoulder's getting sore, that's good, right? If you're doing this and your wrist is hurting, bad. Okay. I can. What can I do here? I should have brought one down. Yeah, I'll do the same. I'll take one of the sparring gen, which is actually a little heavy, and I'll show you that when I use a kind of a heavier type of weapon, it's easier for me to spin, right? Because I can let the weapon tumble on its own, right? And then I just kind of get behind it and help it along, nudge it here, there, and the other way. So that when I'm going with the speed on a heavier weapon, you have much more stability when it's coming from the shoulder, right? It's not in the wrist. It's not in the wrist. Okay, it's in the shoulder. Okay. I think I can get some help. Okay, so might be able to get something from up there. Anyway, when I'm holding this and I do this, and I'll try to get a good vantage point for you, right? Okay, stand like this here. Should have brought a shorter blade. Anyway, I won't turn it on so it won't mess with the camera. As I go back here like this, I'm going to let this drop. Then I'm going to turn my hand over. You see? I turn it over, and I'm turning it over here. And then I just release the the fingers here a little bit. And then I bring it back. And now I'm kind of holding it like this, right? Grip. Same thing on the other side over here. I turn the wrist here, and I come through here. So as you see, I'm never hyperextending the wrist in either way, right? If I go up, you see here, like that. Right? Same thing over here. If I come over here, I'm going to turn back like this. You see, if I do something like that, I go here, there. I don't have to do anything. I just move my waist back, and it comes through. You see? Okay. So part of it is getting your elbow involved, right? Moving your arm, right? But it's not moving your arm to move the saber, or right? It's moving the arm to just to maneuver your hand around it. Like I said, this is not very heavy, so I am ending up having to use a lot of my own power. But anyway, I'll do a video on it, a short one for people to check out. But anyway, yes, so I've been icing my wrist daily from spinning. Oh, do we have it? Yes. Yeah, just one of them. Thank you. Okay, so here we go. If you've ever used one of these, this is a Hanwei Practice Sparring Gen by Hanwei, of course, designed by Scott Rodell, all of that. Okay, so this thing it's okay, it's there, but it is built for sparring. It's over 2 pounds. Not exactly. I think it's 2.5, maybe. I don't know, but it's a little hefty, right? Now it's not so bad that it's not maneuverable, but if you don't have a whole lot of experience with it, or you don't have a good strong sword arm, it's probably going to get a little tiring. Anywho, so if we get this thing spinning, right, I can sit here and with very little effort just keep it going. Right? And the reason is because it has enough weight, and that weight is positioned such away from my hand that I can allow the gravity to pull the tip down when I need. If I go slow, woo, I'm going to hit the cord. Go slowish. I can't go totally slow because I need that momentum to keep it going. Okay. Now, how do you use that for real? Obviously, your parries and cuts, right? So, because I can do that, I can then make this rather substantial weapon move, right? Now, it's probably close to a historical weight. I would probably say I don't have a whole lot of experience with the historical weights of Gen, but it's not ridiculously heavy. It's not unrealistically heavy. This is the weight. Many weapons weighed this, and many weapons weighed more, right? But as I said, I am doing very little, and I'm really not even moving my wrist at all. I used to have a wrist brace that I can't find anymore that I could brace my wrist up so that it's completely rigid and still do this without breaking a sweat. And that's the thing. You get this down, there's nothing to it, right? You can sit here and do it forever. What becomes the limiting factor is boredom. So keep that in mind. Anyway. Yes. So there you go. Not in the wrist. Spinning is not in the wrist, right? If you're doing this type of gen, it is not in the wrist. Take it easy on your wrist. Right? Take it easy on your elbow. Right? I'm from a tennis family. Tennis elbow is another thing you have to worry about with this because of the deceleration of something like that. That's where you get all of this, that this is going to harm your wrist. It will kind of like this because it's going to kind of pull and hyperextend. If you stab like that, it's not too bad, right? Because that's how your wrist bones work. But doing those cuts right there. Now, you don't have to worry about if you're not using steel. You don't have to worry too much about that because these blades are a little less substantial. Now, if you're using heavy grades, maybe not. We're starting to move away from the heavy grades. We used to like them because they used to balance out very much like a regular steel weapon, but they're still too light to be analogous to steel, and we like the 2 millimeters better now. Anyway, so we're kind of switching over. But anyway, so that's how you do it. Let me check the social media pages here. See if okay. I don't see anything. Oh, here we go. How much time should one dedicate to drilling accelerations versus practicing Dulon? Drilling, I would say, probably would take precedence over it. It's something that you can do more reliably. You can do it in a more confined space. You can adapt it to what you're doing a little bit more, and all of that. And then the Dulon is, a more kind of thing there. I would say definitely focus in on practice. Focus on your drilling to improve your Dulon. That's what I would suggest. Define proprioception. Proprioception is your body's sense of space in relation to itself. So it's basically how like if you close your eyes and you touch your nose, you can do that because of your sense of proprioception, right? Your body knows where its hand is, knows where its nose is. Without the visual cues, it can then bring the hand to the nose. This is why this is a test for drunkenness, because alcohol destroys your sense of proprioception. That's why your balance goes all wonky, right? So if somebody is drunk and they close their eyes, not only will they immediately start to really go crazy, because if you want to if you really want to get a sense of your proprioception, stand on one foot and then close your eyes, and then you'll be relying on your proprioception to hold you up, or at least a little bit more. You'll be relying on everything, but except for visual, right? And so that's that. When we talk about proprioceptive type of things, it's talking about how is our body dealing with distance, force, location, and all of that in its general mechanics as we are moving, right? Proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, PNF stretching, or most people just think it's contract relax. That's only one kind. There's other kinds where you're using the proprioception to get more extensibility out of muscles or increasing ranges of motion. So there you go. Little sciencey term for you there. I know it's thrown a lot around, or thrown around a lot out there. Don't let it get to you too much. It's just that. People say that we have 5 senses. We have more akin to 15 senses. This is one of them. So there we go. Yes, interesting about the pivot point on heavy grade blades. I'd love to see a deeper dive into characteristic specifications. Yes. Now, yeah, so the balance point with heavy grades, because they are denser, because they have more material, generally balanced out the hilt a little bit more. Oh no. So, all right, so that was I'll just do that. Believe it or not, that was a bat left that did that. So if I do the balance point on this thing, it's about 2 inches up from the emitter, right? But when I've got about 1.5 inches emitter, so when I'm holding it, it's not too bad for a one-handed thing. Now I've only got a 32-inch blade in here, right? So there's that aspect of it. When you get a longer blade, that's going to change a little bit, change the grade of the blade, all of that. Anyway, so that is that. Okay, so we are coming here to the end of it. I will wrap it up here at TPLA HQ. Thank you everybody for joining in. I will just do one more quick scan of the things. I think we got all the questions. Very good. Okay. So that's it for this. Next week we will be starting up classes a little bit differently. I will be streaming the classes, but there'll be Zoom classes, so people who want to can participate. Hopefully we'll have some apprentices joining us, maybe even some knights who can join in with the fun. But we'll make it worth it. So join us for that. If you want to participate, I'll do events for these things, and hopefully we'll get some tickets going. Otherwise, you can just tune into the channel and check out the class, follow along at home, ask questions in the live chat. All right, so that's it for me. Everybody, stay safe, stay healthy out there. Patience, practice, perseverance. Happy sabering.